My friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Sunday, June 20th, 2021, the summer solstice. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions. And all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many search for truth rules already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And we say that knowing that that is not what's really happening, but as part of our job, part of doing our part. They're talking about a daily message that came through one of the it's a Christian tradition daily message that we get, and which is not the only daily message we get, don't get me wrong, but that's one of them. And it was talking about Solomon, King Solomon, and Solomon in Ecclesiastes, which is part of the Bible that we actually appreciate more than some. Was talking about the oppressed and how sad it was that there were oppressed, and we felt that that was an odd voice to highlight, or an odd verse to highlight, because Solomon had also said other things that were not quite as offensive, because he was the king and he had a lot of authority, and here he is whining to divinity, saying basically, you fix this problem. And what we have been taught in our work is that we are supposed to do what we can do before we ask divinity to solve our problems. And how it has manifested over the 3+ decades is that when we say, hey, can you help us with this? They will say, well, what have you tried? And sometimes the answer is an embarrassing nothing really.
I didn't try anything.
And then they will say, well, go try to solve it and come back and let us know how it's working and where you're hitting your snags. And sometimes we're able to resolve the situation. And so our question about that particular verse of Ecclesiastes would be, well, what had Solomon himself tried? What had he already tried to solve the problems of the oppressed? And we think if Solomon had tried things, he would have said something about it in that part of his writings, and it's silent.
That's true.
So our impression is that this is kind of this is not Solomon's best moment, and maybe that would have been something better left on the curb, not included in something that's being promulgated as writings of divinity. And we're asking, oh, this is interesting, why are we talking about this? And they're talking about how important it is for all of us to do our parts, and how we're attempting to bridge what is a pretty serious interdimensional gap. And the intervening astrals are really, really thick and really full of badly intentioned dead people. And it's incumbent upon those of us who are in the denser end of that equation to be reaching up to divinity, and don't expect God to solve all our problems.
That's right.
That's ridiculous. That would be like saying God is going to solve the problems of all the ants who live on this tiny farm.
Yeah, that's right.
And probably we can hear that seems unlikely, right? And especially when many of the problems are caused by ants fighting with other ants, as would be the case with humanity. And so it's just not likely. We need to do our parts. And we find this, whoever's observing this finds this really interesting, because our big inquiry for the last 24 hours has been with the awareness that we have the assignment to film today on the solstice.
That's right.
What is the filming assignment? And then when we asked that question, asking it in the direction we believe to be up, the answer that comes is the Eye of Sauron.
Yes.
Which is not a positive image.
No, that is not.
Yeah, Sauron's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a very big villain character.
Big villain. And we think it's possible that one of the messages of that kind of answer would be how important it is to remember that we're all tumbled in the astrals all the time. And when the 500,000 hotshot souls, the only souls who were willing to accept the assignment to come into this dimension, when they came in one by one and they were supposed to orient themselves to the direction that they believed to be up and point at up, that there was a 100% fail rate with 500,000 hotshot souls, and that's a statistically significant sample, especially with a 100% fail rate. That's extremely, extremely significant. And so when we're trying to see divinity through what we believe is the portal to do with the solstice, and we see Sauron's eye, we think possibly what we should assume is that that's not divinity, that we're not pointed up. And somebody's talking about how the questions we ask and who we ask them of is what determines our experience of sentience.
That's
and
right.
This is another voice in a higher dimension. And that is a really good point. So let's orient toward them and see if things get better or worse. And they're talking about how when you come across a new phenomenon, especially when it's in the subtle sensing, how very important it is to ask right up front, is this good or bad? Is this good? Is this bad? And feel better one or two. Is this good? Is this bad? And sometimes it's neither one nor two, neither good nor bad. But Eye of Sauron, we think that's an easy to understand metaphor. That is not good.
No.
And so when we find ourselves reaching in the direction that we believe to be upward to divinity, and we see an Eye of Sauron, we probably should let go of the idea that that is up.
That feels
and
calm.
Find another question. And we find that here in this dimension planet combo pack, one of the important things that seems to be missing is karmic cycles that are short enough for sentient presences to understand that what they just did is bad or what they just did is good. There's just this basic confusion at basic level. Yes, no, black, white, good, bad. Oh, somebody's talking about how we noticed this when we were trying to teach this skill set on a large level.
That's right.
In large classes, up to 70 people.
That's right.
And it was not easy.
No.
And the level 1, day 1, first morning class had this exercise of trying to discern yes or no, black or white, good or bad, from our own guardian angels. And we figured out how to teach everything else except that. And that we were not successful. And by we mean listening carefully to the instructions from above, because the entire curriculum was channeled. It's like, how can we get through? These people don't seem to be able to tell yes from no, black from white, up from down, good from bad. What do we do now? And the voices from upstairs would continually say, we'll skip over that and let's fix these other problems that we know how to fix, and we'll circle back around. It'll become clear. Don't worry, it'll become clear. And everything else did get clear, and
That's
then
right.
that item remained an unknown, and we could feel many, many higher powers taking a swing at it, trying their theories of how to break through that logjam, and nothing was successful. And now what do we do in a world where humanity has kind of like been allowed to run rampant over other life forms by delaying karma?
That's right.
And now how do we deal with this situation? Because there could be humans who would like to do the right thing, but they just can't tell. But somebody else in that room of It might be angels.
It might be angels, that's my guess also.
Discussing what they have observed with regard to planet Earth.
Yeah.
And they're saying that humans don't seem to care what's true or what's going on. They want to just take positions and form teams, and they want to be on the winning team.
That's what they're talking about.
And so if they perceive that the bad guys are winning, they have seen this apparent decision is pitch the idea of working for what's right and just be on the winning team of bad guys. And that ignores, of course, karma. So when we're asking for the cycles of karma to be shortened, our perception is that those presences upstairs in ever higher dimensions who are working for the cycles of karma to be shortened, that they feel like more divine presences than some other directions.
That feels calm.
So friends, what you might consider doing if you wish to participate in shortening the karmic cycles, viewers in all dimensions, you can simply report up to Spirit what is observable to you, and consider yourself part of a group, some group, but a group that you can observe, you can actually observe, and then ask as part of the group for all of us who are members of this group to be given deliveries of accumulated karma, so that when we die, as is inevitable, we're not hit with every single thing we've done wrong in our lives, but that we've had a chance to work through some of our mistakes. And then to offer that service to Spirit of observing the group around you to see if there seems to be any kind of karmic delivery occurring that matches what you yourself know from personal observation about those people. And hearsay doesn't count. You have to know it for yourself, because things can be easily misconstrued.
So some examples of personally observable groups you might consider are people in your workplace, people who live in your apartment building, who you interact with.
One of our students uses people in her gym class.
That's what they're talking about.
As the observable group.
That's a great one.
That's a good one also. It's important that it be a group that we ourselves are part of, that every I, every me is a part of, and so it must be individually a part of it, and then to be asking it for yourself also, not as some kind of evil genie curse on the people around you.
That's true.
But as what we would call a group healing, because it is our perception that holding karma in abeyance is a cruelty.
That's true.
Not a kindness. And we would call it a great cruelty. And that a truly divine heart and mind would not hold karma in abeyance, but would allow it to be delivered as close to real time as possible, because we're stupid. Humans are stupid. We're not smart enough, quite obviously. That's what the outcomes are proving.
That's right.
And now they're talking about Christ meditating in the desert for 40 days and nights.
That's what they're talking about.
During a time when he was being tested to see if he was going to give in to the voices who were trying to get him to do bad things, or if he was going to say, "Excuse me, what? Absolutely not. I'm not doing that." And that guy passed the test. He hit the bullseye. He really is a good example to follow. And the question is, what was special about the desert? And this last overnight, one of the dreamers was testing to see if it was low humidity.
That's right.
That mattered. And we have awareness of people who have moved from high humidity to low humidity and have been able to, and vice versa,
Thank you.
low humidity to high humidity, and have been able to observe the influence of humidity, and we don't think that there's any correlation, but we do think there is often a lower density of humanity in arid regions.
That's right.
And it might be the density of humanity that is the big influence on our decision making. And so maybe Christ just got as far away from other people as he could get.
That's right.
For 40 days and nights. And then that's an ancient tradition of many spiritual paths, is just get away from people and have your vision quest. And now they're talking about the density of populations in indigenous cultures,
Yes,
which bizarrely similar around the world and over a long period of time is roughly 10 people per square mile.
Yep.
10 people per square mile. Square mile is about 640 acres on average. So that would be one person per every 60 acres rounded off.
That's right.
And usually we live a little bit more packed in than that. But that's the ratio that works when humans are trying to listen to spirit rather than to some dead people who are telling us convenient things that are almost certainly lies.
That's right.
And won't get us off the hook. When we die is inevitable, and when we're in that little cubicle and they're asking us, is this your signature? It always says, and then what did you do on your sacred vows to spirit? What did we do, each of us, that we told spirit we would do before we came into a body? All right, then what is important for us to notice on this solstice? We think it's somebody's answering. It's in that room of, I think it's angels discussing what they've noticed. And they've noticed that it's really hard to tell which way is up. And therefore a lot of people do things that they might not otherwise have done if there wasn't some poorly intentioned dead person telling the denser person that the dead person is God and that God wants them to do some crazy thing. And some dead person wants them to do some crazy thing. But that's not divinity. And that's a big problem.